Wow. Thursday's edition of Family Matters. Jay, just slow down and words come out better. But Jay Staples, along with the family whisperer himself, Kevin Peterson. Kevin, how are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'll living the dream the best I can. So,
Yeah.
It's football season, so I'm always in a good mood. So,
okay. That's me too.
Except when the Packers lose, but we don't have to get into my clinical
depression.
Yeah. And I got the Milwaukee Brewers that, playing the Cubs. But anyway, this isn't about me. We do this show every week-ish to the best of our ability, answering questions, calming fears, whatever you want to call it. Keep the questions coming in. And if you're watching the replay, a lot of people watch the replay, I would assume. But I was in Nashville for a family discussion. I did have someone come up and said they've watched the show. So we are reaching Nashville, Tennessee. So,
well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. So anyway, we got a lot of closet watchers, I think. I don't think a lot of people want to be known, but,
all right.
Alrighty. Well, let's get into it. Any hot topics? Are you good, Kevin? Are you mentally cleared?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
So
does that help?
We will. So we got, obviously, go to a family thing and, all these questions afterwards I wrote down. So I've got a bunch of questions that may last us for a couple of weeks, but we'll just do kind of, we'll see how far we can go. I kind of wanted to we'll make this about a 12-step fellowship kind of, integration within the questions. So instead of just kind of going all over the place, we'll just call this 12-step kind of orientated. We both know something about it. You work at Jaywalker, which is all about the 12 steps. So I think we're talking to the right crowd. So,
all right.
So let's get into it. We'll see how far we get. What does powerless over addiction really mean? I read that on the wall somewhere. Does that mean they're not responsible for what they did?
Pass. Next question. I'm just kidding.
I think you're allowed to pass.
That's a great question. So there's two questions there. What does powerless mean? And does that mean that there's no accountability? I'm going to do the second one first. God, no. No. There's no get out of jail free card. There's no free pass on any level whatsoever.
I will say, not to add your, we do have another, if we're talking about powerless, so you can just choose anyone. They did say, if they truly admit that they're powerless, how can I trust them to have power over their choices going forward as well? So we'll just go.
Wow. Okay, I got to wake up here. Okay, so let's define powerlessness.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about what that means. And in the 12-step world, we talk about three things. We talk about phenomenon of craving, which is, the physical allergy to drugs or alcohol. And here's the best thing I can give someone who's not in a 12-step or an alcohol, or not in recovery themselves. You got to read the book Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lembke from Stanford University Medical School. She explains the concept of why addicts struggle and what's going on in the brain and the dopamine seeking and all that sort of thing. It is the most scientific explanation I've ever had of the phenomenon of craving and the difference between the addict and the alcoholic and the non-addict and the non-alcoholic. And that's the best thing I can tell you. Now, just because we're addicts or alcoholics and we realize that we have a biological difference, there's no free pass. Okay. It's just, just like, if you have diabetes, you have to take insulin. If you have, what's the blood one where you got to get, kidney disease, you got to have dialysis. Okay. So you don't get a free pass for it. But there's three parts to what we call powerlessness: the phenomenon of craving, the mental obsession, and the spiritual malady. And these are all out of sort of the 12-step AA manual world. And that's when we talk about powerlessness, what we're talking about is we have to grasp and understand that when it comes to drugs and alcohol, we cannot control it or be in charge of it, and we can't turn it off whenever we want to. My sister, my biological sister, can turn it on and off. She can have a beer. I don't think she does drugs. So I think, I'm going to give her the pass on that one. I'm pretty.
She's missing out.
I'm telling you, alcoholics and addicts wake up every day thinking this is the day I can control this. This is the day I can enjoy it. This is the day I can have one or two and drink like a gentleman. And it never works. It just never works. And so that's what we mean by powerlessness without getting into a long discussion. The second question, the second question was about accountability. No, God, no, there's no free pass. Once you understand what's going on, you got to take responsibility. I mean, you got to take responsibility, period. But then once you realize this is my problem and I have a solution, I have to follow the solution. How can I trust them? Well, that's a great question. And I would say the rest of the 12 steps are really all about helping alcoholics and addicts get sober and stay sober and change the way they live. That's how you trust them. And I would tell you that trust comes over time. It does not come quickly. It's not something that, I'm sober, magically everything's okay. No. You got to work the steps. You got to go through the process. And you got to one of those steps obviously is making amends and cleaning up the mess that you made in the past and owning it and being responsible for it. And then moving forward, So I hope that answers those questions. I think I did.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I think in recovery circles, they also will say that we have lost the power of choice when it comes to drugs and alcohol, and that in itself opens a whole new door that can go on for another 2 hour long discussion. But it's I have an abnormal reaction when I do drugs and alcohol, which is called an allergy. But I think you did a really good job. So
I get that question all the time, by the way, and I think that's why, when one of the families that I work with at Jaywalker, one of their first homework assignments is to read Dopamine Nation, and it kind of they come back and they're like, oh my God, okay, now I get it. And she also talks about it takes 1.5 to 2 years for the brain to come back. It doesn't. Somebody who's sober 30 days isn't suddenly making great decisions. And then there's a great interview on the Huberman Lab. It's a great podcast from a neuroscientist out of Stanford, where he interviews Dr. Lemke.
Yeah.
And it is incredible. It really is eye-opening for people that don't understand addiction. And they're like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I understand. He's fighting something that even he doesn't understand. They literally think we wake up every morning and think, okay, today's the day I destroy my family. And it's like, no. It's quite the opposite. And we don't know why it happens either. So that's the best thing.
Yeah. And reading, it never hurts to read the AA Big Book as a family member too. So that gives you a little more insight too. So all great suggestions. I do love that podcast. I probably maybe only have 4 saved videos, and that Huberman Lab with Anna Lemke is definitely one that I've seen multiple times. So a family member son is calling their sponsor at 2 a.m. but won't talk to me. Why do they trust them more than their own family? And what if the sponsor gives them advice that conflicts with what we think is best?
That's a good question. Well, the first part of that question is, why is he calling the sponsor? Because the sponsor is someone that has gone through the same thing he's gone through. So that's really what the whole goal is, right? Is having a sponsor is to have someone that has walked the path before and can give them advice on how to go about it, and get based upon their experience. What if we don't agree with what the sponsor's saying? Well, yeah, that's a tough one. sometimes that's might be how it is. And I think, there's nothing wrong with sitting down and talking to your son and saying, hey, I mean, if he's living under your house and you're paying his bills, and, I think you kind of have the right to say, hey, we kind of like to know what's going on around here, and we like to get some clarification of what the plan is and where you're headed. If the person's not living under your roof and you're not covering their tab, I think it's one of those things where you have to stand back and you have to trust God. Just like your son's learning how to trust a higher power, you have to trust a higher power that, what he's doing and where he's going is actually, part of the plan. It's just not your plan. So that can be really hard. That's going to be a big pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I get that. I totally understand that. But that's where now we're talking about the other addiction, and that's the addiction to managing somebody else's life. So that's a tough one right there.
Yeah. So I think we've touched on this just in this opener, but they keep saying I need to work my own program, and they keep suggesting a program called Al-Anon, but I'm not the one with the problem.
Well, you're right. You're not the one with the drug and the alcohol problem. But you do have a problem. The problem is you have an alcoholic or a drug addict in your life, and it's disrupting your life. And so that's why people are suggesting that you go to Al-Anon. You don't have to go to Al-Anon. You can go to CODA, Codependents Anonymous. There's a couple others, or you can go to therapy. And there may be, some family groups that you can look into in your neighborhood. But here's the thing. To say I don't have a problem is maybe a little naive. You do have a problem. Your problem is the addict and the alcoholic, and it's a tornado, whether they're sober or not, going through your life. And the question is, how are you handling that tornado? And is that something that you're struggling with? Are you constantly trying to control them? Are you trying to force them into a specific situation, or how you want things to be? That's what they're talking about. They're not saying that you have a drug and alcohol problem. But sometimes, just saying sometimes, people that have addicts and alcoholics in their lives or in their families or married to them or whatever, they tend to follow into some patterns of being very controlling and sort of trying to manage things and sort of hover over them and, worry about them and be engaged. My favorite phrase about codependence is, it's when you're more involved in their life than they are. You're putting more time and effort into their life and their problems than they are. And then you're blaming them for that. That's your choice. And so what we want to do is teach you how to step back and be like, nope, that's a you thing. Good luck. Hope it works out. Love you. I know you'll handle this well, but that sounds like a you problem.
Well, the person suffering with the addiction, mental health or something, I always say, that's the family's drug. And so, the fellowship is dealing with the drug that is, trying to love an addict. So,
yeah, it's tough because that family member has probably spent their entire life handling things for everybody else. And so they're like, what do you mean this is my job? And I'm like, and I totally get that when they were 16 or 14 or 12, but they're 30 and you need to stop handling their business and let them start handling their business. That's the hard part.
So there's a lot of really good questions. So we'll we got plenty of time during the following weeks, but
all right.
Well, what if their amends feels hollow or self-serving, like they're just checking a box? They destroyed my life, and now I'm supposed to help them feel better by accepting their amends? ?
Oh yeah, you don't have to. Let's be clear. Here's how the amends should go. And I'm going to be super clear because a lot of times people don't do it this way, and that ain't amends. Here is the harm that I caused you. Please tell me how it affected you. This is where you get a chance to say, man, like you just said, you destroyed my life, and then the next part is, have I left anything out? And that's your chance to lay it down. Yeah, here's the list of stuff, man. It's not just, oh, you stole $40 from my wallet. You wrecked my car. You ran over the cat. You whatever, slept with my girlfriend. I mean, whatever, and lay it down, put it all on the table. And then the last one is, they should be saying to you, how do I make this right? So that on the, how do I make sure this isn't an empty promise or a hollow thing, or they're just checking a box? If they're not doing it that way, then I would say, you're absolutely right, because that way you cover all those pieces, and it's not empty, and it's not hollow, and it's not just, I'm doing this because I have to. It's actually sitting down and putting yourself in a position where you're vulnerable to the other person and saying, hey, I'm here to clean up my mess, and I'm really sorry. And I'm really sorry, and I want to make it right. So how do I make it right? To me, that's amends. If they're not doing that, it's not an amends. It's just an apology.
Yeah. And it was thrusted into my existence that there's a huge difference between apology and an amends. And the amends is making life choices that you won't show up like that, no matter to that person or just to the best of our ability in our lives. We don't make that same mistake to everyone, but I had a couple of people that said they're not ready. Gave me some really good insight into how I affected their lives, and I was able to circle back. We'll get into the next question about this, but I do. One of the things I'm very, very grateful for in my early recovery is that I had a sponsor that we took our time going through the steps. Now, I was in a year-long program, so I wasn't going anywhere. So there really wasn't any need for me to go on a certain fast or quick or whatever it may be. But I took my time within doing all of the 12 steps. Now that leads to the question is, my loved one just came home and said he was on his 10th step. It's only been a month and a half. This seems awful quick. Are we to measure his sobriety and his success on what step he is? Because there's only 12 steps and he's on 10, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of things changing in his life.
Whoo, dude, saving the big guns for the last.
I love this question.
Yeah.
And I got it. And I kind of, I did exactly what you did. And I kind of stepped back.
Great question.
From a family component, you hear 12 steps and you hear someone on their 10th or 11th, and the thought is, holy crap, they may be done pretty soon.
Well, let's start with, you're never done. It's always, it's always a start over and a start over and a start over and a start over. So that's number one. Number two, and I think this is really critical and to understand, is that it's not for you to manage their program. That's one of the things we always talk about, is you got to stay out of the other person's program. So if you don't like the way you're being treated, then you have the right to speak to that. But, then that person can take that back into their world, and whether they have a therapist or a sponsor or whatever, and sort of sort through it. But it's not, I get where they're coming from, but I'm also hearing a lot of, I'm not getting what I want out of their 12-step recovery process. And now we're back to, yes, you do need to go to an Al-Anon meeting because you're trying to manage and control their sobriety. And then I would say the other thing too is, and this is really important, is that when somebody goes into treatment, a lot of treatment centers are just doing the car wash, just whip them through as quickly as possible. And that doesn't mean that they're one and done. It's not over with. Everyone does it a little bit differently, right? Our program, before they go to our secondary program, they have to get through step 4, and I think that's reasonable after 90 days. it's not how I did it. I did it, walking into AA, and it took me a long time. But, once I started as a sponsor, we started meeting regularly, and it was very thorough and very succinct, So yeah, I guess that's what I mean. That's kind of the answer to the question is, this is their business, not yours. And if you don't like the way you're being treated, and if you're like, hey, Mr., I'm on the 10th step and you're still being a douchebag, you have the absolute right to sit them down and say, I'm really happy that you're sober, but I'm not okay with the way I'm being treated. That's total. Again, there's no free pass. There's no automatic immunity because I'm sober. It's like, oh, no, quite the opposite. If anything, it's more, you got to be more aware of how you're treating other people.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I don't think that I did the 12 steps perfectly my first time around, but like the joke I've heard numerous times, and we always joked, you get to the 12th step and you're like, oh my God, I made it, realizing that the 12th step is reaching your hand back and helping people up that same mountain. So in a sense, there's no end in sight. Like there's always, if you're doing the 12 steps and, you get to the 12 steps, that's carrying the message to other people that are suffering and so forth. And, I choose to go through the steps every single year. But I mean, that's just, my own journey through it. But yeah, I can tell you that when I was in long-term treatment, we used the steps as kind of a measuring mark because, you were basically allowed, like the treatment facility was like, yeah, you had to kind of go in front of the staff and kind of give a little bio about each step work and your, so forth. And so, that was our measuring stick as to trying to get out of that place, like more often than not. But families may see it, and yeah, it's a work in progress, and it shouldn't be a measuring stick. But at the same time, yeah, I would hope that if he was truly doing the work, getting to the 10th step, that you would see some change. But I'm not sure if I had any change when I first went through. So it's a difficult one. So
yeah, no, and I mean, that's the other thing I would say is be patient with them. They're, I mean, I don't know how you get through 10 steps in 30 days, but that's pretty impressive. But I think there's also an opportunity to do it again and do it again and do it again. So yeah.
Well, should we do one more? What do we want to do?
No, I'm done. You're killing me, bro.
I know.
Save some for next week.
That's heavy. But so we got plenty more and some others. We do this every single week.
Yes.
And so we just know that bring your game, Kevin, every week, because I now have a bunch of questions that I think are going to one of these times we're gonna stump you. But anyway, we do this show to the best of our ability every week. If you're watching a replay, don't hesitate to put it in a comment. You can reach out to me directly through social medias or Kevin. If you need resources, if you need clarity, just let us know.
Yeah, that's where we are. We're ready.
Yeah. You can take the rest of the day off. You've worked. You've done enough. So